Hey guys, my name is Mannequin and welcome back to Mastering EDM with Logic Pro. Today, you can see my project's a little bit different from usual in that I have an audio file up. Or not an audio file rather, but an audio track up. And that's because today we're talking about vocoders. If you don't know what a vocoder is, it's basically you get a synthesizer and then you run audio through it to kind of affect the synthesizer so it sounds like it's a talking synthesizer. So normally I drop an audio file in here when I was working with vocals, except for in the case of vocoders, you actually don't need to worry about the quality of the vocals because they're essentially just shaping the synthesizer, and really the quality of the singer or talker or whatever doesn't actually matter all that much. Even like the deepness or tone of their voice is pretty much irrelevant. So I'm just going to kind of show you here just to record some here. Let's take this at 128 just because. And let's see, what should I say? Okay, I got an idea. Make the beat drop. Okay, it clipped a little. Oops. It clipped a little, but I don't think that's that much of a problem. Let's listen here. Make the beat drop. Okay, that'll work good enough. So, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a little bit of fun with flex time, which I'll talk about a lot more in later videos. But for now, I'm just going to drag this here, make that right dead on there, and then actually make the... actually, we're going to move it over here so we can kind of line it up better. Make the... Yeah, we'll do it right. Make the beat drop. Okay, actually that's almost lined up correctly. Let's just tweak this here, shift that over. Make the beat drop. And then because I shifted that over without shifting anything else over, kind of screwed some things up. But okay, let's do... Nope, I want to pull this one over so we're shrinking this whole thing. And we'll just get it to about there, anchor that one there, and then pull that one there. Okay, make the beat drop. Okay, so that's kind of like flex so that it would theoretically be on time. I don't need to worry about that too much just because I'm not really doing much of this. I'm just showing you you could use flex time, so if you get a crappy take, then you kind of get stuff, you could kind of get something that works a little bit better. But essentially, like I said, the audio quality for this does not really matter all that much. So let's see, the next thing I need to do here is create a new software instrument. Create. Whoop-de-doo. Now we're going to do a little bit of bus routing. So typically I like to send these things to bus 5 or bus 15 just because it's going to be a small project. I'll just send this to bus 5. And then I'm actually going to, actually better idea. I am going to, we'll just keep it like this for now. So now what I have is I have bus 5. I've clicked here. Notice that if you're on stereo out, you're not going to get this. So just click on bus 5 to actually bring this up. It'll say bus 5 there. Now go to stereo out here and click no output. So that means if you solo this, despite the fact that we're feeding, I pulled this up to 0 dB by hitting Alt and then clicking that. And despite the fact that we're feeding that into there, we should not hear anything, even though it's like running audio through it, and you could see that it's running audio into it. And don't worry about that, it's clipping, it's no big deal. So now what we'll do here is we'll get this one and load up the only vocoder that ES2 has in it, which is the Evoc 20PS, which actually is a pretty crappy vocoder. The only reason I'm using it for this is because I want to show you guys the way a vocoder works, and I don't want to show you my favorite software to do it in, because frankly, I think a tutorial that shows you in software that you have to get is kind of stupid if you don't have the software. So for learning purposes, I am using this vocoder even though it's not very good. So now I just need to line up some things. I'm going to kind of start this note here. It's good enough. So I'm going to hit, I'm hitting Control here to get this pencil tool. And then just drop that right on the line there. And what you want to do is you want to line it up. And for each note, the beat. Okay, so this one is kind of starts here, and so I'm going to create another note here, line it up, and we'll extend the lengths later, beat. Okay, so we'll keep the beat there. This is actually going to be terribly off-timed, but I don't care. It's just kind of for just kind of showing you how it works. Ideally, you'd actually have some audio running in the background so you can make sure you get the vocals all nice, timed perfectly, and then dropping in the vocoder notes will be a lot easier. So you'll be able to hear if it's off time. But for now, we'll just deal with this. So that's the drop there. and then we'll just go like that. And now we get to extend these notes. I am going to actually have this this note encompass all the way up to after the K. Then I'm gonna have this one go all the way to here, and then this one similar. I'm going to the T, I believe that is. I'm gonna have it go all the way to after the T, and then this one I'm going to drop. I'll just let it encompass that too. So we go to this final note, and then we play it back. Make the beat drop. Oh, what do you know? It doesn't sound anything like a vocoder. And the reason is because we haven't set up the vocoder portion. So I created a bus here, and I kind of just sent it off to nowhere land. And so now we're going to actually use that here. So the first thing you got to do is you have to route in sidechain here. So this is the factory default. Unfortunately, there is no like reset setting for this. So we're kind of just going to have to work with whatever options we want to choose from. You could kind of cycle through these to hear them first, but I'm going to show you how to get this to work with every single one. So first thing I want to do is I want to actually loop this so I don't have to worry about things kind of, let's do this. I'll loop that and shorten it to about there-ish. That's good enough. So I don't have to worry about playing this back over and over again. Okay, so here we go. So what we need to do is, oops, sorry about that. So what we need to do here is we need to pull the sidechain that we got before. So this is bus 5. So despite the fact that this sidechain is not actually producing audio, it still is routing audio to it. So it'll send the audio to this sidechain here. So right now, off the bat, it still continues to sound make the beat drop. Exactly the same. And the reason is because you actually have to change the mode of evoc. It's stupid. I don't know why they did this, but you actually have to change the signal from a synthesized thing to vocoder. I do not know what that is. I should look that up. But if I set this to vocals now, make the beat drop, you could kind of hear it. Except for the one problem now we're running into is this is smack dab on top of this. Now, your first thing inside of you would say, pull the volume down. But then you don't hear anything. So what you actually need to do is you need to disable the output of this one. Now, alternatively, this is what I was debating about before when I was talking about making this bus. So now that we killed that output, it actually works and we don't have to worry about hearing this track itself. But alternatively, what we could have done is, I was just doing this to make it easier on you guys. What we can do is we can actually make this no send and make this send to bus 5. So the actual output is bus 5 and the send is no longer there. So this is only sending to bus 5. Bus 5 in turn is sending to no output, so we don't have to worry about hearing anything from this. But it still functions for the vocoder. So now the other thing about this vocoder here that I want to talk about is how obscure all the settings are. It's very, very, very difficult to work with this because it's not set up like anything like a standard synthesizer. This is one of the reasons I hate it so much, because you can't like create a nice synthesizer and then throw vocals on top of it like you could Synthmaster, which is my personal preference by way of vocoders and stuff. Actually, it's my personal preference for all synth stuff. But anyway, yeah, Synthmaster, you could actually design a synth regularly and then just turn it into a vocoder. Great thing there, not to mention it's a good price synth. And so anyway, that's what I typically go for, but we're just going to deal with this because if you don't have a vocoder synthesizer or a synthesizer that works with vocoding feature, then you'll just have to deal with this. So off the bat, like I said, the only thing we changed here so far was changing the signal to vocals, which is actually just a sidechain. It doesn't necessarily have to be vocals, but actually you could route drums through it and it sounds pretty darn cool. But anyway, you have to make sure that you have these notes in here, because if you don't have the notes in, let me mute this region, the vocals don't do anything. So by themselves, the vocals don't do anything, and by themselves, the vocoder doesn't do anything, which also means that you can't just solo the vocoder, you have to solo both of them. And the same way you can't just solo the audio, you have to solo both of them. So keep that in mind. There might be a way to link them. I don't know. You could just stick them in a track stack maybe. Just go like, create track stack, and then just make it a folder stack. So whenever you want to vocoder, so whenever you want to solo it, you solo both of them. That was just an extra thing there. But so we're gonna drop back down to here. And so now I'll show you a couple things here, just kind of what can happen. So this right here is basically a low pass, high pass filter. So if you want to kind of squish your vocals into the high end to kind of get rid of the low end, which is typically the case. So we probably don't want that much bass in there, so we'll put it about there. And then there are some other really weird tools here that are important to know. Format stretch, format shift, and resonance. Format stretch. So despite the fact that we actually cut out the low end, there's now low end again. Now the way this works is it allows you to have something that is like, if you have rumble in the low end, you can actually pull this up and it basically takes this and extends the information out so that it kind of allows you to have low end, but you're not actually using real low end, you're kind of using fake low end. So that's what that allows you to do, and in the same way you could shrink it, which just kind of makes it sound filtered. Now, interesting thing is also format shift, which lets you move that up and down. So you could take this filter and you could do all kinds of stuff with it. For the purpose of this, we'll just stretch it a little bit and move it up. So we'll do about that just because it kind of gives us some clarity. Now resonance here does quite a bit to the characteristic if I recall correctly. So it kind of makes it ring a lot more. Yeah, so it kind of makes it sound almost like there's a chorus on top of it. Now, for other things, this affects it more like if you have a lot more motion in the vocals, like you have, then it can tend to affect it more. But in the case of staccato notes like this, it's not doing that much. So we're just gonna like not bother with that. So now the other thing here that you want to keep in mind is sensitivity. This sensitivity will allow you to kind of, if you have background noise, it'll kind of help get rid of that. And it also just kind of changes the tone a bit too. So we'll play with this. Not that big of a deal simply because, yeah, I'll actually show you. If I turn this down all the way. Yeah, what the heck. It's not doing much anyway. Okay, so now there is one other thing that I definitely need to touch on here, which is the mode. So the mode allows you to do some interesting changes to it. So we have noise and synth, and a blend of both. It kind of just is like a different tone. I personally like the way that blend is working with this one. I apologize for the interruption there. But okay, so here we go. Let's see. The other things I need to cover. Okay, so the other weird thing about this is the synthesis options. We have frequency modulation and we have dual. Dual is basically, if I recall correctly, two different waveforms, and FM is two waveforms except for one's frequency modulating the other. So I prefer dual just because it allows you to kind of know what you're doing more so. So it just kind of lets you balance between them. And so yeah, that's one thing there. And then there are some, part of the reason it kind of sounds like it's all gorbly warbly is also because there's an assemble on right now, which I could turn off. So that's why it was sounding all garbly. And then also there is somewhere around here, something is modulating the volume, I think. But I'm not quite sure what that would be. Yeah, whatever. So now there are some other interesting things here by way of the way the sidechain analysis works here. You could so it's kind of just like, you know, letting you actually control the attack and release of the shaping of the actual synthesizer. So notice that if you pull the release really short, you get a lot of like rumbling sounds, but it's tight. Now, one of the things here, I think if I'm correct, the freeze button here, yeah, what the freeze button does is it allows you to take any particular sound. So if it's shaping this, but if you like one particular shape that comes up, you could actually hold that. Now, something that you could do with this pretty cool here is you could actually automate this too, turning on and off, and that could give you some pretty funky results. So now there's a lot of other stuff I could cover here, and I'm going to try to go through it as quickly as I can. But anyway, it's just so much stuff, and a lot of it is kind of awkward. It's like, you know, you have the attack and release here, and then you have the attack and release here. So even more so. Yeah, so you can kind of just see here that some of the things here are affecting things that you might not want to mess with, or you might want to mess with, and it's just a matter of what's important to you in the particular case. My honest suggestion is go through the presets, find one that kind of sounds remotely similar to what you like, and then start mapping this up. So the biggest ones of most importance are the ones I covered first. I kind of wanted to do that. So the way, you know, I was talking about this whole area, how that's pretty much what you need to focus mostly for the vocoder. These three knobs and this little shifty part here. And then the UV detection, I don't think I messed with that. But this one is kind of just a sensitivity. I don't know why I got these mixed up, but this one's kind of more like sensitivity than this one. So why it makes sense, I don't know. But so yeah. Now also notice that you can't really hear my voice with this mode off, but when you turn it to blend, you could just barely hear a high pass filter version of my voice through it. So that's one of the other things that's just kind of keep in mind that those different modes do affect how much passes through and stuff like that. So now off the top of my head, we have some other things here, which is this is a simple filter. And then this is obviously volume. But you have the cutoff, the resonance, and all that good stuff. And then obviously we have this noise generator here, which is between white or blue noise. And as for the waveforms, I honestly can't tell you which one is which and how that works. But you can detune these here, as you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Judging by this, I'm guessing that these are different waveforms you could choose from. Let's find out. Yeah, these are just a plethora of waveforms. So unfortunately, there's no names. You kind of just have to look through them. And then these ones are, this is basically kind of like the pitch almost. So a lot of stuff here that is very obscurely labeled and doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of, you know, quick, I need to change this and how do I do it. Now, one thing that I didn't mention here that I really want to talk about, but first I'm going to pull this into mono and then stick the voices in unison here. Turn down the number of voices since we're now in mono. And I believe there's a glide here, which I want to turn up. And then I'm just going to go and pull this down just a little bit. So that gives you a lot more, a lot more options there by way of, you know, getting an interesting sound. So that's kind of cool there. And if you want to do I keep on closing that. Why do I keep on doing that? Okay. So if you want to make it kind of sound lower resolution, you change the number of bands. So the bands basically kind of, so that's very smooth sounding. And if I go down to 5, it just sounds pretty darn distorted and loud. So this is essentially how many points does it look at when shaping the synthesizer. So if you set it up to 20, it sounds the most human, where if you turn it down to 10, it sounds a little bit rougher and a little bit more robotic. If I turn it all the way down to 5, it kind of just sounds like a slightly similar sound. So if you want to like make a synthesizer and then shape it to a voice, you'd probably use 5, but if you want to actually make a talking one, you might want to pull it up to something higher like 20. And I just turned on unison because I like unison. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff you could do. Obviously, like I said, you could change these. The pitch of these, just turn down the semitones here to like an octave lower. And then, you know, you got that. So there is some, the shift LFO here allows you to change how much it moves here. So it's almost like a cutoff. And then obviously this one is the pitch LFO. So you can mess with those. But yeah, the biggest ones you got to worry about is everything around here and this one that's off to the side, bands, which is very important to the detail that you find in the vocoder. And then this one knob over here, which is kind of obvious in what it does, and it's rather helpful if you're having problems with, say you stick this to unison, but it still kind of sounds like stereo. Whoops, sorry about that. Then you could just pull it down. And simply there we just have where it sounds like it's in mono. Now it does have a little bit of garbling still, and that would be because we have 4 voices. If we turn it down to 1, it gets rid of a lot of the garbling. Some of it still stays there. Unfortunately, I'm not that familiar with Evoc 20 to where I could actually tell you what the source of all that garbling is and how I could fix that. So unfortunately, I can't give you everything here, but I have given you pretty much a rundown of everything you need to know for this really weird synthesizer that seems to defy all common sense. And anyway, vocoding is really awesome if you learn how to use it right, and it can make you. Actually, let's try this. Just to kind of actually, let me keep this here for you guys, and I think I'll post this up so that you guys can just kind of have this and mess around with it. And I'm going to do something here where I am going to sing terribly. I'm intentionally going to sing terribly, and that's kind of half of an excuse for me and kind of half of because I actually want to. But anyway, I'm not a good singer to begin with, if you didn't already catch that hint there. But anyway, let's just try something here and see what happens, and you'll be interested to see how much it could change a plain sounding voice to something that sounds actually reasonable if you want to do something that's like Porter Robinson style, like the vocoder. Actually, he doesn't use vocoder. I think he actually uses dang, what's it called? Vocaloid. That's what it is. But it's actually a voice synthesis program where it actually creates the voice from scratch. But that's completely different from vocoding. It's a similar concept in the technicalities behind it, but it actually generates a voice instead of actually using someone's voice to shape a synthesizer. Anyway, tangent there. Let's get on and see what we can't do, because I don't know how well this is going to turn out. Hey, yo. No, I was not going to sing words. Did you honestly think I was actually going to try to sing something? Okay. So now if you run this through a vocoder, the really cool thing here is you'll notice that if I stretch this over here, just make it the whole length, and I place one note here and run it the whole length, the result is actually pretty interesting. You might be surprised. It actually doesn't sound like I'm changing notes at all. And of the same mindset, you could go like this. So what pitch I have this at? Yeah. We'll just drop one. I don't want it that long, darn it. Let's see here. Double click that to pull up this and change the length to something considerably shorter. Okay, what the heck? There we go. Okay. Put that there. That was terrible sounding. Okay. Nope. This is what I wanted. Yeah, we'll try that. So you could kind of see that you could actually like change the notes of something that theoretically, like I think I did 3 different notes in this, but when you run it in, I could like take that 3 different notes and make it sound like 1 note or make it sound like 10 notes. So it really allows you to shape things, and you could actually like sing an entire vocal line and completely repitch it to whatever you need it to be, and it won't sound as bad as if you actually get vocals and try to repitch them to the correct pitch. So, you know, there is flex pitch that Logic has that allows you to do some pretty good pitch correction. It's not amazing, but it's pretty darn good for being built into Logic. And essentially, the vocoding idea allows you to just take the shape of the vocals and run a synthesizer through it. So all you're getting is kind of like, mostly when you do a alternation between consonants and vowels and the shape of those consonants and vowels, it's, you know, that's what you're taking and putting into the synthesizer. The synthesizer determines the note. So the reason you heard the change when I just go like here, delete these ones, delete that one. And the reason you heard the change from here, the reason you heard the change there was simply because I was going to a higher note, which meant that the, wait, was I going to a higher or lower note? I don't even remember. But anyway, since I was changing notes, the actual characteristics of my voice did change slightly. Welcome to real instruments. And so because of that, what I ended up doing was I ended up making despite the fact that I wasn't really getting a different note with the vocoder, I was changing the kind of the frequencies that are more prominent in my vocals. So that's why you do get that strange shift around here. And but you know, it's, for the most part, you could actually get, like I said, you could get an entire vocal thing and then just repitch it with a vocoder behind it. And by the way, feel free to layer tons of vocoders because it makes them sound even better. And essentially get a robotic vocal sound, and if you pitch it up higher, you'll sound like Porter Robinson's vocals. But, well, like some of the vocals he does, rather, because the whole idea of vocoding, you know, like if I just go here, it doesn't actually sound all that bad. And if I pitch it up even more, that's kind of similar to what he does. Now, you could just keep on pulling this up and, whoops. And you'll notice that it's not really affecting how bad it sounds. It's just kind of changing the characteristics. Heck, I could drop this down like 4 octaves. And it just kind of sounds deeper. Part of the problem here, though, is we're dropping it down so low, and we actually have added some things to kind of limit the characteristics so they're not so deep. If I pull the format shift down, it should be... So you get a deeper voice there. And yeah, just try to pull that back up to where it was. I think it was about there. So, and then I'll just shift these up. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so lots you could do with vocoders. And there's essentially, you know, you don't have to worry about audio quality. Like, I had clipping in this one. And one of the rules about vocals is do not let it clip because it sounds nasty really fast. But that doesn't matter all that much when vocoding. Now, there are going to be cases where you don't want to let it clip, obviously, because if you can keep it from clipping, then that's the best solution. Except for the way I have my recording set up, it's better to run it in hot, run my audio in hot through my microphone, so it kind of, when I record stuff in it, it ends up clipping. But normally it sounds fine unless I go like, yeah. So that was mean of me. Sorry. Anyway, this video has probably taken way too long to do, but there's a lot. Vocoding is a very, very, very unique concept because it's like taking audio and a synthesizer and mashing them together. And this is not as intuitive as it could be because, like I said, with I'm just going to really quick pull up. I won't keep this, but I'm just going to kind of show you what happens when I do this in SynthMaster. All I would do is I would actually have to load in SynthMaster effects to get this so I could run into Sidechain. But all I would do is just go to effects here, turn on the vocoder to make it so it is modulated by the audio input, not the input, and then just set the mix to full. And then all I have is the envelope, attack, decay, frequency, spacing, and then I don't recall how this works, but yeah, there are some settings here. But you can see for the most part, this is basically frequency start is basically the format shift, spacing is basically format stretch, and envelope, attack, and decay are the attack and release here. So essentially it's broken down to those things. Not quite as flexible in this case, but it works pretty darn well for being just like a side thing that was almost threw on there. So Yeah, vocoding is difficult, but that's just because it's a weird concept in and of itself, and you could get some pretty trippy stuff. Like I said, if you haven't tried running drums through a vocoder, try that. You can get some really weird stuff. But yeah, so like I've said 3 times, I've run this video so long, I bet, but it's good stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, because it's got, I realized I hadn't done a video on vocoders, and I talked about vocoders in like one of my first few videos. And so now is a fitting time to talk about them, since I'm covering synthesizers, and a vocoder is a synthesizer that is affected by audio. So anyway, yeah, mess around, try some stuff, and just see what you can do with this. It's a pretty cool tool to mess around in. If you're not for the whole vocoder style, you might be surprised what you could do with this actually, because you could get some chorus sounds, like it sounds like a chorus of people, by just running a whole bunch of very smooth vocoder sounds through some people like doing a sound, and just kind of like change the note of the vocoder, make them very quiet in the background, and you could throw it in chill out, and you'll be surprised, because I don't hear a lot of chill out with vocoders in it, but you know, it's something you could fit in there, and it could make your music style unique. So, like I said, unique tool, opportunity to do unique things, opportunity to have a unique style. So, yeah, lots of stuff there. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, like it. If you have any comments, suggestions, or anything you'd like to talk about, just go down comments below, throw something, you know, just say any questions you may have, or if you have any suggestions by way of vocoder, or things that you think I missed and you'd like to kind of throw in your input to kind of help other people out, or better explanations for some of the things that I had no reasonable explanation for, then feel free to throw them in, just kind of help add to the conversation here, and just make this a really nice place for everyone to hang out and learn a lot from. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.